They never expected you to survive. They never imagined you would rise. And now they will never recover from the force you have become. They built entire narratives around your defeat, whispered predictions of your downfall, and placed silent bets that you would never crawl out of the wreckage. You were the afterthought, the casualty, the one they wrote off before the fight had even begun. They spoke of you in past tense, as if you were nothing more than a ghost of wasted potential. But ghosts don't rise. Ghosts don't reclaim their power. And you are no ghost. You are the reckoning they never saw coming. This moment matters. This shift in power, this irreversible transformation. This is the moment that will haunt them forever. Because the version of you they once knew, the one who tolerated, who apologized, who bowed under the weight of expectation, is gone. And in that absence, something dangerous has taken root. Not the fragile hope they dismissed, not the fleeting resistance they laughed at, but something far greater, far more permanent. A force they cannot manipulate, a mind they can no longer deceive. A presence that no longer asks for permission. You have walked through fire, but you did not burn. You shattered, but you did not stay broken. They don't understand it, and they never will, because they were counting on your suffering to be the end of you. They thought pain would keep you shackled, that heartbreak would reduce you to silence, that betrayal would turn you against yourself. But they made a fatal miscalculation. They never considered the possibility that the very suffering meant to destroy you would become your greatest weapon. They never imagined that every scar they left would only sharpen you into something unbreakable. And now, they are faced with a truth they cannot deny. You are not what they expected. You are not the failure they so confidently predicted. You are something they cannot comprehend. Something that shakes the very foundation of the stories they built around you. Because your power does not come from the approval they once dangled before you. It does not come from the validation they refused to give. Your power was forged in the darkness they left you in the silence where you had no choice but to become your own salvation. And now that you have risen, now that you have become untouchable, they are left with nothing but the ruins of their illusions. They will never recover from this. They will never unsee what you have become. Every word of doubt, every attempt to keep you small, every effort to make you believe you were anything less than extraordinary, it has all backfired spectacularly. Because instead of breaking you, they built you. Instead of silencing you, they amplified your voice. Instead of burying you, they planted the seed of something unstoppable. And now, they must live with the reality that they were the architects of their own downfall. There is no going back. No returning to the version of yourself that fit neatly into their expectations. No dimming your light to make them comfortable. No softening your edges to ease their fear. You owe them nothing. Not an explanation, not an apology, not a chance to rewrite the past. Because while they were busy underestimating you, you were becoming something greater than they ever imagined. And now, they will never recover from the power you have gained. They do not know the depth of what you have endured. They see you now, standing, unshaken, a force they can no longer contain. But they will never understand the war that forged you, the nights that swallowed you whole, the betrayals that hollowed you out, the moments when the world turned its back, when the people you trusted whispered their doubts behind closed doors, when you screamed for help in the silence and received nothing but echoes in return. They will never comprehend the weight you carried, the pain you swallowed, the loneliness that became your only companion. You were not always this strong. There was a time when you believed their lies, when you let their opinions seep into your skin like poison, when every rejection felt like confirmation that you were never enough. You learned to live in the shadows of their expectations, molding yourself into something palatable, something acceptable, something easy to dismiss. You learned to shrink, to second guess, to betray yourself just to feel wanted. And they thrived on it. They fed off your insecurity, found power in your submission, reassured themselves with the thought that you would always stay exactly where they left you. They never thought you would wake up. They never expected you to look in the mirror one day and realize that every word they spoke was a chain around your throat, that every doubt they planted was designed to keep you small. They had conditioned you to believe that suffering was your birthright, that failure was inevitable, that dreams were for those born under a luckier sky. Society told you that your voice was too much, your ambition too dangerous, your fire too wild to be trusted. Family made you question your worth, reminded you in subtle, cutting ways that love came with conditions. Friends who should have celebrated you instead distanced themselves when your light began to outshine their own. And then there was the cruelest voice of all, the one in your own mind. The voice that repeated their words back to you, that told you they must be right, that maybe you were destined to be forgotten. Doubt became a parasite, burrowing deep, wrapping itself around your dreams, whispering venom into your thoughts. Every failure became proof that you were unworthy. Every closed door, a testament to your inadequacy. You carried the weight of every mistake, every moment of weakness, every instance where you were not enough for someone else. And so you stopped trying. You let the world convince you that power belonged to others, that success was a privilege not meant for you. You folded in on yourself, convinced that maybe, just maybe, they were right all along. But pain has a way of transforming itself, of sharpening you when it was meant to break you, of fortifying your bones when it was supposed to make you weak. You did not die under the weight of their doubts. You did not disappear into the darkness they pushed you into. No, you learned to see in the dark. You learned to listen to the silence. And in that silence, you found a voice that was not theirs. A voice that did not beg for permission, that did not wait for validation, that did not accept their limits as your own. They thought they were building your prison, but in reality they were forging your key. Every tear, every rejection, every time they told you that you would never be enough, it all became fuel, a fire that could not be tamed, a storm that could not be silenced. They wanted to break you, but instead they turned you into something unshakable. And now, as they look upon you, as they struggle to reconcile the version of you they created with the force that stands before them now, they will have no choice but to face the truth. They lost their power the moment you realized you never needed it. You have no, and now they will never recover from the power you have gained. There was a moment, perhaps more than one, when you felt the ground beneath you give way, when every ounce of strength drained from your body, when the fight that once burned in your chest flickered into a dying ember. This was the moment they were waiting for, the moment the world, the voices, the doubts, all conspired to crush you beneath the weight of their expectations, their ridicule, their relentless certainty that you would never rise again. You know this moment well. The collapse, the breaking point, the instant when it no longer felt like you were fighting a battle, but drowning in a war you had already lost. When everything you held on to, hope, love, belief in something greater, was ripped from your grasp, leaving you with nothing but the suffocating emptiness of despair. Maybe it was betrayal that brought you here. Maybe it was the slow decay of dreams you once held so tightly. Maybe it was the relentless cycle of trying, failing, trying again, only to be met with doors slammed in your face. Whatever it was, it led you here, to the darkest place you have ever known. And oh, how that darkness lies to you. It wraps itself around you, whispering that there is no way out, that this is all there is, that the world has forgotten you, that no one is coming to pull you from the wreckage. It convinces you that you were never meant to win, that perhaps the fight was a mistake to begin with. It reminds you of every failure, every rejection, every moment when you were nothing more than an afterthought. It tells you to let go, to stop struggling, to surrender to the weight of it all. And for a moment, you did. You let yourself believe that maybe they were right, that maybe your story had reached its final chapter, that maybe you were destined to be the footnote in someone else's triumph. You let the silence settle over you. Let the exhaustion seep into your bones. You stopped fighting, stopped pushing, stopped searching for an exit. You surrendered. Not because you were weak, but because you were tired. So unbelievably tired. But here's what they didn't understand. You never truly broke. You bent, you shattered, you fell into 1,000 pieces, but you never truly ceased to exist. Even in your surrender, something inside you was waiting, watching, smoldering beneath the surface, a force that would not be extinguished, no matter how deeply they tried to bury you. And in the stillness of your defeat, in the suffocating silence where even your own voice had gone quiet, that force remained. Because despair is an illusion, defeat is a mirage, and the end they so desperately wished upon you was never real to begin with. Because while they were celebrating your downfall, they did not see what was happening beneath the surface. They did not realize that even in the moment of your greatest collapse, something was shifting, something was waking. And soon, they would come to understand the truth they had spent so long denying. You were never gone. You were never finished. You were simply waiting for the moment when your power would return in full force. And when that moment came, they would never recover from the reckoning you would bring. Somewhere in the wreckage, something stirred. It wasn't loud, it wasn't grand, it wasn't a sudden explosion of power or a moment of divine intervention. It was small, barely noticeable, a whisper against the deafening silence, a pulse beneath the numbness. The first spark of power hidden beneath layers of pain and exhaustion, waiting, watching, refusing to die. You didn't see it at first, how could you? You had been buried beneath the weight of your own destruction for so long, convinced that nothing remained, that every part of you worth saving had already been lost. But that's the thing about power. It does not beg for recognition. It does not announce itself with fanfare. It simply exists, undeterred by doubt, unshaken by defeat. And then came the anger, the kind of rage they never wanted you to feel, the kind they feared because they knew if you ever realized its true nature, if you ever embraced it instead of suppressing it, you would become something they could no longer control. They taught you to fear your anger, to see it as a flaw, a burden, a curse. But anger is not destruction. Anger is energy. Anger is proof that you are still alive, that you still care, that something inside you refuses to accept the reality they forced upon you. And when that realization hit, when you stopped fighting against the fire inside you and started feeding it instead, everything changed. The moment of defiance did not arrive with a roar. It came quietly, like a thief in the night, stealing away the chains you had once worn so willingly. It was a whisper in your mind that said, no more. No more apologizing for existing. No more carrying burdens that were never yours to bear. No more allowing your past to dictate your future. It was the first time you looked at yourself, not through the eyes of those who doubted you, but through the eyes of someone who had survived. It was terrifying, standing up after so long on your knees. Your legs shook, your voice wavered, but you stood anyway. Because for the first time in a long time, you knew you were not done. The world did not notice your first step. They had already decided you were finished, dismissed you as another casualty of life's cruelty. But what they failed to understand is that the most dangerous people are not those who have never fallen. The most dangerous people are the ones who have tasted defeat and risen anyway. Because once you rise, once you take that first breath as someone who refuses to be broken, you are no longer just a person, you are a force. And that force, it does not waver, it does not bow, it does not return to the cage it was once trapped in. This was the moment you shifted from victim to warrior, the moment you realized that power is not given, it is seized. That freedom is not offered, it is seized. That survival is not enough. You were meant to conquer. And as the fire inside you grew, as the weight of your past burned away, a new truth emerged, one that would change everything. They will never recover from the power you have gained. The world does not recognize you anymore. They look at you and search for the person they once knew, the one who flinched at their criticism, who sought their approval, who folded under the weight of their expectations. But that person no longer exists. You are something else now. Something they never accounted for, something they never wanted you to become, because while they expected you to break, you did something far more dangerous. You transformed. You did not run from the fire, you walked straight into it. You let it consume everything weak, everything fearful, everything that no longer served you. You burned away every lie they ever told you, every limitation they placed upon you, every moment you spent doubting your own worth. The flames did not destroy you, they refined you. They took what was left after the collapse and forged something unbreakable. So you are not just stronger, you are untouchable. Your body remembers every battle it has endured, every betrayal, every scar, every sleepless night spent drowning in doubt. But instead of weakening you, it has become your armor. The pain that once held you captive is now your weapon. The memories they thought would haunt you forever have become your fuel. Your mind is no longer a battlefield of self-destruction, it is a fortress. You have rewired yourself, built a new foundation upon the ashes of your suffering. Where once there was fear, there is now clarity. Where once there was hesitation, there is now certainty. And oh, how they despise this version of you. The way you move without seeking permission, the way you carry yourself as if you belong. Because you do. They whisper that you have changed, that you are selfish, that you are unrecognizable. And they are right. You are not the person they once knew, because the person they once knew was molded to fit their comfort. And you have outgrown their comfort. You have outgrown their expectations, their control, their need to keep you small. To them, you are the villain now, but only because they fear what they cannot contain. This is poetic justice. You have become everything they once mocked, everything they once feared. They told you confidence was arrogance. Now they must witness you stand tall. They told you independence was selfish. Now they must watch you walk away. They built their power on your submission, and now they must face the consequences of your rebellion. They cannot control you. They cannot define you. They cannot reach you. You have become the very thing they never wanted to confront, a person who knows their worth. There is no returning to who you were before. That version of you died in the fire, and in its place stands something new, something powerful, something unstoppable. You have shed the old skin, cast aside the shackles of the past, and stepped fully into the warrior you were always meant to be. They will never recover from this. They will never undo what has been done, because your transformation is not just a victory, it is a warning to anyone who dares to underestimate you again, a warning that you will never be caged, never be silenced, never be made small again. And now, as they stare at you, searching for traces of the person they once controlled, they will come to understand the truth they refuse to see. You are not their creation. You are your own. And they will never recover from the power you have gained. They look at you now and do not recognize what stands before them. They search for remnants of the person they once knew, the one who doubted, hesitated, sought their approval like a beggar seeking scraps. But that person is gone, vanished, replaced by something greater, something they cannot define, cannot control, cannot manipulate. You have severed the final ties to who you used to be, broken free from the weight of their expectations. This is the moment they realize they have lost you forever, not because you disappeared, but because you evolved into something beyond their reach. You no longer react the way they expect. Their words, once sharp enough to wound you, now fall dull against your skin. Their absence, once a source of pain, now means nothing. You have taken every lesson they tried to teach you, about staying small, about knowing your place, about being grateful for whatever crumbs they offered, and set them all on fire. Because the truth is, you never needed their permission, you never needed their approval, you never needed them. The power you sought was never in their hands to give, it was always within you. And now, you wield it with precision. Control is no longer an illusion. It is yours. Pain no longer paralyzes you. It sharpens your discipline, fuels your focus, strengthens your resilience. What once triggered you now drives you. The things that used to break you now serve as reminders of what you have survived. You have mastered the art of turning suffering into strength, of alchemizing adversity into power. And that is what terrifies them most. They thrived on your instability, on your self-doubt, on your inability to see yourself clearly. But now, you see everything. And you move accordingly. You have become a silent storm. You do not need to announce your power. You do not seek validation. Your presence alone is enough. They feel it in the way you carry yourself, in the unwavering certainty of your steps. You no longer over-explain, no longer seek to be understood, no longer waste time proving your worth. You simply exist in it, and in doing so, you have taken from them the one thing they never thought you would: control over how you see yourself. This is where they realized their greatest mistake. They believed you would always stay down, that no matter how many times they pushed you back, you would eventually learn to stay there. They believed that your pain would keep you shackled, that your past would remain your prison. But instead, it became your foundation. And now, as they watch you, as they try to make sense of the force you have become, they must face a truth that will haunt them forever. They will never recover from this. They will never undo what has been done. They will never forget the day they realized that the very person they dismissed, doubted, and tried to break had become something unstoppable. And you will never look back, because the past is nothing more than a lesson. The future is yours to conquer, and the power they once feared is now fully in your hands. The silence is deafening. The same voices that once echoed doubts in your mind now stammer in disbelief. The same people who once held the strings, who fed off your insecurities, who thrived when you were unsure of yourself, now struggle to comprehend the force standing before them. They had built their world around the idea that you would always be within reach, always be manageable, always be a version of yourself that needed them. But you've outgrown them, and now they don't know what to do with you. The panic begins subtly at first, a shift in the way they speak to you, a hesitation in their words, a forced kindness in their tone. They sense the change, but hope it's temporary. They hope this newfound strength is just a phase, that eventually the weight of the past will drag you back into old patterns. But when they see that your power is not an act, not a fleeting moment of rebellion, but a fundamental transformation, they begin to unravel. They realize they no longer have access to you the way they once did. Their words no longer hold the same weight. Their disapproval no longer breaks you. Their absence no longer wounds you. And that is when fear sets in. So they reach for their last weapons: guilt, manipulation, doubt. They remind you of the times they were there for you, conveniently forgetting the ways they made you doubt yourself in the first place. They twist the past, rewriting the narrative so that they were your saviors, your protectors, the ones who only ever wanted the best for you. They accuse you of changing, of becoming selfish, of forgetting where you came from. They say you owe them, that your strength is arrogance, that your confidence is cruelty. They try to pull you back into the mindset where you felt responsible for their comfort, where you once dimmed your own light so they could shine. But it doesn't work anymore, because now you see through it all. This is where the power of indifference becomes your greatest weapon. You do not argue, you do not explain. You do not waste your energy trying to make them understand. You simply continue. You move forward. You stand firm in your power, knowing that the moment you stop seeking their approval, you have already won. Their control was never about force. It was about the illusion that you needed their acceptance to be whole. And now, as you walk away without hesitation, they realize they have lost something they will never regain. The shift in energy is undeniable. You feel lighter, freer, unbothered by the weight that once held you down. But they feel it too. They feel the void where their influence used to be. They feel the absence of your need for them, and it terrifies them. They never imagined a version of you that did not orbit around their validation. They never prepared for the moment when you would no longer look to them for guidance. They never thought they would lose you, not like this, not completely. And yet, here you stand, unapologetic, unmoved, unshaken. The past is behind you, but the lesson remains. Power is not something you ask for, it is something you claim. And as they struggle to adjust, as they grasp at the pieces of control slipping through their fingers, you remain steady. Because this time, you are not turning back. This time, you are not second-guessing your worth. This time, you are rising without permission. They will beg for the old version of you, the one who made excuses for their behavior, the one who tolerated, who settled, who stayed quiet. But that version of you no longer exists. And no matter how much they plead, no matter how many tactics they use to try to pull you back into their grasp, the truth remains the same. They will never recover from the power you have gained. Look at where you stand now. Look at what you have survived. Every battle, every betrayal, every dark night that tried to convince you this moment would never come. Yet here you are, stronger, wiser, unshaken. You have walked through every fire meant to consume you, endured every storm designed to drown you, and you did not just survive, you thrived. They did everything in their power to keep you down, but the irony is, every ounce of pain they inflicted became the very thing that built you. You no longer carry the weight of their expectations, their opinions, their judgments. There is no need to prove anything anymore. You have already won. Not in the way they understand. Not through vengeance, not through shouting your victories in their faces, but through something far greater. You have mastered the rarest form of power, peace. Not the kind that comes from submission, but the kind that comes from knowing exactly who you are. True power is not aggression. It is not loud, desperate, or forceful. It is the quiet certainty that no one holds anything over you anymore, that there is nothing left to fight for, because you already own yourself completely, and now you live as a monument to survival. Your existence alone is enough to haunt them. The fact that you still stand, unbroken, unshaken, that alone is the justice they never saw coming. They wanted your failure to be their closure, but instead they are left with the undeniable proof that they did not win. They must live with the knowledge that they threw everything at you, and still, you emerged greater than ever. There is no need to explain, no need to remind them. Your presence is enough. Your success is enough. Your very being is the final statement they will never be able to erase. So you walk away, not in anger, not in bitterness, but in absolute clarity. You do not need to look back, because there is nothing left for you there. The past has served its purpose. The battles have been fought. The lessons have been learned. You have no desire for revenge, because you have already taken the greatest victory: your freedom. There is no satisfaction in proving them wrong, because their opinions have long since lost their meaning. You walk forward not to spite them, not to make a point, but simply because the life ahead of you is too vast, too rich, too full of possibility to waste another second in places you have outgrown. And this is the final lesson, the moment of ultimate power, with the realization that you owe them nothing, not an explanation, not an apology, not an invitation to witness your success. Their loss is their own to carry. Their regret is not your concern. You are done being the story they tell to comfort themselves. You have become something beyond them, beyond their reach, beyond their comprehension. They will never recover from the power you have gained, but that is not your burden to carry. Go forth and thrive. Your existence is the only justice you need.